Okay.
All right, so yeah, welcome everybody to this November meeting of the Lehigh Valley ACS section. So if you don't know me, I'm Lindsay Welch. I'm an associate professor of chemistry at Cedar Crest College in Allentown. I am happy to introduce our speaker for this evening, who is Dr. Chip Nataro. He is the Marshall R. Metzger Professor and head of the chemistry department over at Lafayette College. He's also he's an inorganic chemist, very active in the Viper, as well as he was recently awarded the National ACS Award for research at an undergraduate institution. So we congratulated him recently on that, but doesn't hurt to just mention it again. We're proud of our people in the Lehigh Valley getting national awards. So tonight he's going to be giving us a presentation or some information about SLiThEr, a new initiative that's helping to reach out across many different campuses across the country, across the world, probably, that he'll tell us about that he's been working on recently. So Chip, thank you for volunteering to present to us this evening, and we look forward to your talk.
Thank you. Hopefully I can live up to that. Please, small group, feel free, interrupt me whenever you so wish. And we'll see what we can chat about. So hopefully you're seeing a screen now that says a Viper SLiTHERs. So, all right, look at that. I can still use technology. Good deal. So I want to kind of start with a little background into what Viper is, if you're not familiar with it. And then we'll dive into the SLiTHER aspect of things a bit. And then maybe a little special surprise at the end, depending on how we're doing. So Viper is actually part of something called IONiC, the interactive online network of inorganic chemists. We like acronyms. Acronyms we can spell with symbols from the periodic table. So for Mike, I know those organic chemists on the third floor in my building. There's a row below the row with carbon, and there's lots of other elements there. Yeah, who knew? But IONiC started because at most PUIs, primarily undergraduate institutions, the inorganic chemistry department consists of one person. So we generally, kind of are flying solo, and we go out in the hall looking for someone to talk to about our field, and we find nothing. So that's a little problematic, especially since inorganic chemistry is incredibly diverse. There's, the side of it that I'm in, organometallic chemistry, coordination chemistry, but that means I don't know anything about solid state inorganic chemistry or bioinorganic chemistry. So the founding of the group was, we need to have a way to have these hallway conversations. So at first, 6 people got together at a seedy airport hotel in Atlanta before an ACS meeting. And I'm told this was not the original hotel. It was actually worse than this one, but just to give you a feel for it. And very quickly, what that meeting did was convince 4 people that they needed to do something, and 2 people that they wanted no part of this. So the original group went from 6 to 4 very quickly. But that was around 2007. Since then, we've seen some growth. So now this is the leadership council of IONiC. We're kind of northeasty biased, but spread coast to coast. And we do include among our members, an organic chemist from the University of South Florida. He's actually a organic education specialist. But we have a very big dynamic leadership council because we do a lot of different things. And to give you a little bit of feel for that, we've got money, so we got to have ways to spend it. We have been well funded since we were originally started, back to the Mellon Foundation and the NIDL program. And we're currently working on our 3rd NSF grant right now. And we're starting to write the 4th one in the very near future. The website was launched in 2008. That was a big ceremony at ACS meeting in New Orleans. We pushed a button and up it went. I wasn't actually part of the leadership council at that point, but that's when I really first got introduced to it. So I mentioned VIPER, the virtual inorganic pedagogical electronic resource. Whew, that's a mouthful. But this is our website. This is kind of our forward face. If people, if you go to an ACS meeting and ask someone if they've heard of our organization at all, odds are they will have encountered VIPER first. And what VIPER is it's just a repository of what we call learning objects. So these can be as simple as a single question you might use on an exam or a homework set, to as complicated as a fully developed laboratory. We don't have a lot of labs on the site, but we do have a few, and they're good stuff. I use one of them in my class. Lots of different problem sets, but primarily, and what we sort of consider our killer app, are what we call literature discussions, kind of guided inquiry processes going through the chemical literature, making it accessible to undergraduates. And we've got over 1,000 different learning objects on the site, and it grows all the time. Originally, the site was seeded by members of the Leadership Council. They posted most of the original learning objects, but over time, the community has contributed more than the original group ever did. So there's all kinds of diverse kinds of materials on there because they come from all kinds of different people. Well, COVID's going to come up a few times throughout this, and we actually made a big change in the community just before COVID hit. So this hit in January of whatever year that was, 2020. That sounds right. The Leadership Council of IONiC has longstanding and continues to have a persistent Skype open for the Leadership Council, and we talk to each other every day. And every once in a while, we talk about our project. Most of the time, it's not. We've been there for each other through a lot of thick, some thin, all kinds of different things. We celebrate births and high school graduations, college graduations, all kinds of great things. But it wasn't until, early 2020, we said, this is something that we should have for the whole community. So we did a little working, and some of my colleagues on the Leadership Council used Discord for other sorts of things. So we decided to create the VIPER Pit, a Discord server for the community. And we've come up with all kinds of different channels on it. You can see a little bit of it here. We have the comm chat, just general announcements, things about COVID, looking for learning objects on the website, DEI channel. We've got some private channels for just members of the Leadership Council. And this has been just an amazing extension of our community, especially when COVID hit. We went from, I want to say it was about 18 members to about 120 almost overnight. And it was incredibly active. As you might imagine, most of that activity was, holy crap, what do we do now? I got to do my labs virtually. But since then, it's continued. It's not just the Leadership Council that's out here asking questions, offering advice, looking for insight and guidance. It's been really cool to see the community kind of join in on this, and continue to keep this a very active site. So if you were to hop on and post a question, I'm guessing you would get an answer within minutes, and probably not from a member of the Leadership Council. And I would say, 3-4 years ago, that probably wouldn't have been the case. So it's really, really been great. Some of the other things we do workshops on teaching inorganic chemistry. This happens to be the workshop we did this past summer at University of Texas, Arlington. We had about, what was it, 15 participants, I believe, present. And it was a really cool mix of participants ranging from full professors to graduate students. And we got together, we talked about teaching in organic chemistry. We had an expert speaker, Robin Macaluso from UT Arlington. She presented some of her research, and then our participants got together and created learning objects that we published on the site. It was an intense 3 days, but it was just an awesome time. And that's something we've been doing for a number of years. We want to continue doing. It's great for community building. It helps people just get to meet other people. One of our participants, I'll say bugging because I joke around with her a lot, but I've been working with her an awful lot. She started her first semester teaching remotely, something she wasn't prepared to do. And, she doesn't know her colleagues that well. And we bonded over 3 days, and it's been great to just kind of talk with her and help her out through the process. So we also participate heavily in ACS meetings. We run sessions called Undergraduate Research at the Frontiers of Inorganic Chemistry. We usually have 2 oral sessions and a poster session. And those are faculty at PUIs presenting. We even have faculty from research institutions that present, but we also get an opportunity for a fair number of students to present in those oral sessions also. And they are part of the Division of Inorganic Chemistry. They're not something separate. We are in DIC. We do tend to bring pretty good numbers to DIC, and since that matters to ACS money wise, DIC treats us pretty well, so we usually get to do our sessions early in the week, which is nice. And we also do a social hour, usually Monday nights before SciMix. So this is our social hour from New Orleans a couple of years ago. And again, it's just a great time to bring the community together. And there are members of our community that go to ACS meetings and we have never seen involved in the site at all, and vice versa. But that's awesome. We're getting people together and talking, so good times. We also have something called Viper Fellows. This is a reflective teaching project that is currently ongoing. This was a major focus of our current grant. Obviously, as this picture shows, there's been a little shift. It was meant to get people together in person, but that kind of went by the wayside. But these are people from all over the place. Caroline's at University of Utah. Here's Robin from UT Arlington. So some people from larger research institutions, as well as people from PUIs. But it's been very reflective. They've taught a class, recorded themselves while they were teaching, gone back and analyzed the recordings, and made changes to their courses based on it. So we're just about at the cusp of getting our second cohort of Viper Fellows in. And, we expect some publications in the near future on how this reflective teaching has changed their courses and student learning. We've also done some curriculum investigation. This is probably one of our coolest papers out there, where we just surveyed the community about what's taught in inorganic chemistry. And inorganic chemistry, biased opinion, is probably the most variable discipline in chemistry, because there are some schools that have 1 semester of inorganic chemistry, some have 2, some have that 1 semester sophomore year, some have that 1 semester senior year. It's not like, organic chemistry, where you could walk in and pretty much any organic class you walk into this week is covering what, Mike? You got to be covering something.
Conformational analysis.
Yeah, that's probably, you could probably walk into a lot of organic classrooms and they'd be doing something along those lines.
We love it though.
Yeah, that's okay. You're allowed to love it. But you walk into an inorganic classroom this week and who knows what you're going to see. So we did, this survey and discovered that basically there's a lot of different types of inorganic classes. There's no one course. And that's why whenever you get a bunch of inorganic chemists together, a guaranteed way to get them talking is say, hey, so what book do you use? And I almost guarantee that's going to be followed by a statement along the lines of, well, I use blank, but I don't like it. Because no book is written for any one specific class. All right, so COVID hit, and oh my goodness, all the craziness happened. Probably the fastest turnaround on a paper I've ever had. When COVID hit, I saw the writing on the wall of the governor's going to shut down the state of Pennsylvania. I think I figured that out around 6 o'clock. I ran into the building and quickly banged out a jobs method lab to get data so I could share it with my students in lab, because I figured, okay, we're out for at least 2 weeks. I want to have something for them to do. Fortunately, I had some other colleagues do that, and we were able to very quickly pivot and flex. I don't know that it was the best stuff, but it was the best stuff possible in a couple of hours time. And you know, we described that in this paper. We got about 5 labs up in the space of 2 weeks on the site with virtual data and analysis and videos and all kinds of things, which I thought was pretty darn amazing. But you know, as we all did when COVID struck in full, that pivot led to another kind of change. We started having some discussions of, well, hey, you know, ACS meeting was canceled. Of course, that happened right when COVID hit, right? Oh no, and Gordon conferences were getting canceled, and every other conference was getting canceled, and we were missing those interactions. So that led to our development of SLiThErs. Yeah, I'm finally on topic. Obviously, the primary thought on everyone's mind at the start of this was, how do you teach remotely? So we had sort of this common theme. We could say, hey, I know we're going to have people that are interested in this. What can we do to get the group talking about this? So the first one came up, which was, you know, probably for most chemists, the what do I do about lab? We said, let's get someone to talk about what they did with lab and see what kind of conversation that gets going. Spring 2020 was obviously triage. You know, we had no time to react. It was make something happen, do the best you can, move on. But over the summer, then we started getting the opportunity to reflect and think. And I tend to be somewhere between a pessimist and a realist. I like to say realist. Other people would probably say I'm on the pessimistic side. But I figured fall was going to be the same kind of mess. So I wanted to be able to take some of that time over the summer and really be prepared for the following fall. And a lot of my colleagues did the same. So we were hoping for the best, but we were planning for the worst. So on June 23rd, 2020, the idea of, hey, let's do this online discussion came up in a chat on our Discord server among the leadership council. And very quickly, someone was volunteered. And notice I said someone was volunteered. They didn't necessarily volunteer right away, but it was kind of a, hey, you could talk about that. And fortunately, the person didn't say no. So once we had this idea, we had to come up with a name for it. We had to, you know, stick with our snaky theme and our ability to spell it with element symbols. So these were some of the initial suggestions. And it does get tough to try and make these things make sense and spell them out with elements while maintaining a snake theme. So these were quickly discarded and we finally settled on SLiThEr, but this was in the space of about 6 hours over Discord. And we decided to come up with the Supporting Learning with Interactive Teaching, a hosted engaging roundtable. So it does actually have a meaning. I don't know that it's exactly the most descriptive thing of what SLiTHERs have become, but it's what we got. The guiding principles. At first, it was deal with online teaching, but we have morphed, and it is any topic of potential interest to faculty. And hopefully you'll see that's quite a range of different things. We wanted these to be relatively short, somewhere in the 20 to 30-minute range by a presenter or a panel, or maybe two presenters, but then keeping open 15 to half an hour for questions. And we wanted, community engagement. We didn't want this just to be staring at a screen like you're doing right now, listening to me, unfortunately. We wanted people to interact and discuss as we were going. So question and answer, audience participation, interrupt speakers, all of that is great. We decided early on to have people sign up ahead of time, not just publicize the Zoom link. Zoom bombing was a thing at that point in time, so we were worried about that. It also turned out to be nice because we could kind of track who signed up. Now, we did still publicize or put the Zoom link in our Discord server right beforehand so people could attend without necessarily signing up, but we wanted to get a feel for how many people would come, especially to the first couple. Like, were people actually going to buy into this? Probably the smartest thing we did in retrospect was from the very first one, we decided to record it and then put it on our YouTube channel. I still think back and I'm like, I can't believe we thought of that ahead of time. That just doesn't seem like something we would do. I figured, when I think about it now, I'm like, how did we even get the first couple? I would have thought we would have missed them, but we now have all of our SLiTHERs, and we're up to 28 of them at this point, all recorded on our Viper YouTube channel, and they are getting traffic for sure. So that was, if I said one thing, record them. This very, very quickly became too much for two people to handle. And that's what it kind of started as. Two members of the leadership council thought, hey, this is cool, let's do it. So we quickly became Team SLiTHER. And of Team SLiTHER, I missed Carrie here. I'm sorry, Carrie. Since I know this is being recorded, she might see it someday. Only 3 of the members of Team SLiTHER are members of the leadership council, myself, Kyle Grice, and Carrie Stone. The rest are other members of the community who just liked the idea and wanted to participate, which is great. Shared governance actually works. And I'll bite my tongue here for a minute and not say anything else about that. This has been great. We split up the work. We get one person has to host a SLiTHER a semester. One person goes out and recruits a speaker, and that's the one they host. So it really took a lot of work off the plate. Kyle and I were doing it all at first. Taylor's been great. Taylor's the one that takes our raw Zoom videos and cleans them up a little bit and puts them on YouTube. And then we make learning objects that we post on our Viper site so people can find them really easily. So it's a great team, and I think we've done pretty well together. So here are some of our general sorts of topics that SLiTHERs have been on. And you see it's kind of all over the place. Laboratory, teaching online obviously has been a big thing. Flipping classrooms, Viper in general. Assessment has been used. We've talked about different means of assessment, non-traditional assessment means, generally chem ed kind of ideas, green chem, DEIJ issues, some specialized inorganic topics. We had a really cool one where we were talking about how to apply for a PUI position. And we've done a couple on mental health. One of our most recent ones, we didn't even have an inorganic chemist being the presenter. We brought in someone who was an expert in the field of mental health just to talk about recognizing and dealing with students that might have or be showing signs of depression. So we have tried to be incredibly diverse in the different topics that we're talking about. So we're in the process now of working on a paper, writing up our creation of SLiTHER. And that means a poll out to the audience. We're up to 52 respondents. It's very interesting. Of those 52 respondents, 2 actually filled out the survey saying they declined to participate in the survey. I'm not really sure what that means, but we can see some people have bothered to fill out the survey, but haven't engaged with SLiTHERs at all. So down here in this percentage, but we've got a good, quarter of these folks have been to 5 or more of these, and others have been to varying amounts, which is great. Not every topic is going to be of interest to everyone, but I think that's pretty good that we're getting people attending these. How have they engaged? Well, we've had presenters, organizers, people that are in person watching it, and almost as many people watching them on YouTube, which is really cool. And out of 52, that's a pretty good number, I think. And then we've got, one person, it might be the same person. We did this anonymously who has done nothing, and that's okay too. It seems like we're hitting what we want to be hitting. People seem generally very happy. Have we met the goals? Well over half saying yes. So that's good. Apparently we're explaining what we want to be talking about and then talking about it very well. People seem very satisfied. Again, not everyone. That's okay. I can live with these kind of numbers. Most people are extremely satisfied on this 5-point scale. 5 is extremely satisfied. I guess I should have shown that. So 4s and 5s are good. 1s, someone's not so happy. That's okay. This, I think, is the coolest data point we have so far. And we asked folks, what's been your favorite SLiTHER? And I am thrilled that this is so many different colors, which means that somebody's found something we've done to be really cool. Now, assessment has been a really popular one. Our best attended, our most viewed one had to do with alternate means of assessing, which is great. A lot of people are very interested in it. I'm very interested in it. So I really like that one also. But people have been interested in other things. Mental health issues have come up. Labs have come up. Even one of them, this one surprised me because I thought it was kind of bland. I gave a SLiTHER on using LibreText and making the switch to a LibreText for my inorganic class. And someone thought that one was really cool. And I was very surprised by that. So I think this is great. It's telling us that we're hitting things that the community wants to learn about, even if it's just one person, that's okay. As far as what people want to hear about in the future, course management's big, teaching resources, especially lab experiments, teaching. I'm surprised assessment is quite so low there, but that's okay. People want to hear about oral assessment types of things. Emotional well-being practices rated pretty high. Student motivation, engagement, learning objects of interest, and I don't have all the options on here, just the first few, just to kind of keep the graph. But I think we've got some good data to mine of what our spring semester might look like. And again, I hope it's really diverse, that we'll probably do 5 SLiTHERs in the spring, and they're probably all going to be in sort of 5 different areas. Our YouTube stats. Well, our 28th SLiTHER was just last Friday, so we don't have any stats on that one yet. But you can see that this is about a week old, I think, on the overall stats. We're doing, I think, pretty good. Yeah, we're not getting any viral money here out of this, but that's okay. Our first SLiTHER, glad we recorded it. It's been up there the longest, but it's got over 350 views. This one was on alternative assessment methods. That one, as I said, has been really, really popular, almost up to 300, but they've all done fairly well. Most of them are up over 100 views. Some of the newer ones, of course, are not, but we think they will get there. during the semester can be a little tough, but that's okay. So some comments, favorite part so far, informal discussion with time for question and answers. People have appreciated that. That was a goal from the beginning, continues to be a goal. Interaction with the broader community. Definitely something we wanted to foster and support, and I think we're doing that pretty well. Availability on YouTube. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback of, I wasn't able to go live. I'm so glad this is available on YouTube. I've gone back and watched it later and learned a lot from it. So as I said earlier, I don't know how we thought of it at the time, but boy, we were smart ones. And people have also multiple commented that, just the fact that we're all over the place, so many different topics and how relevant they are, have been greatly appreciated. Some suggestions for improvement. Well, we'd like more participants. That's a great suggestion for improvement. I don't know exactly how we go about doing that, but we do continue to try and come up with ideas to bring in people and make the topics as relevant to as many people as possible to try and encourage that. We had a lot of comments to focus on curriculum more. So we'll probably try and address that in the spring and hit one or two SLiTHERs related to curriculum in some event. People really seem to like our panels. We haven't had too many so far. One of them that was really popular, especially with some graduate students and postdocs, was the applying for a PUI position. We had a really great panel there. I think that's something we'll probably do maybe every year around application time. So maybe next September we'll do one of those again, just for people to participate in when application time comes. Timing is the toughest thing. No matter what time you pick, people are going to have something. There's been suggestions of Viper After Dark doing nighttime meetings. That might be something we try in the future. We have pretty much limited it to East Coast time, late afternoon, but we might try it. Someone suggested, maybe trying a Saturday morning or something like that. I think that's a train wreck waiting to happen. So I don't think we're going to go there, but we'll continue to discuss it. All right. So I got a little bit of time. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. Just as we surveyed people about the inorganic curriculum, we've recently conducted and have submitted a paper to JChemEd on what's taught in inorganic chemistry labs. So here are some results. Just like the courses, inorganic chemistry labs are all over the place. Some folks have no inorganic lab. Some have one course. Some have two inorganic labs. Some have the lecture and lab tied together. Some don't. Others have inorganic focus in more of a super lab type of thing. So again, not surprising, very variable. What's required to take that inorganic lab? Well, not too surprising. Most people require Gen Chem. Decent amount have Orgo, at least one semester as a prereq. From there, it starts falling off. That's not terribly surprising. Emphasis seems to be on synthetic methods and characterization. After that, purification probably a little bit higher. Not really so much on professional skills, things like presenting or maybe literature searching, those sorts of things. As far as synthetic methods go, there's a lot done with using inert atmosphere. Catalysis seems to be up there, some with compressed gas, vac lines, other inert atmosphere techniques, and it starts fading. We have more in the full survey, so I only went with the top few here, but you see it sort of starts fading off very quickly. Again, the N here is somewhere around 150, so the top 4 or 5 seem to be fairly common. After that, it seems very, very specialized. Purification methods, well, Again, not too surprising here. Recrystallization towards the top, rotary evap, if you want to call that a purification method. And again, it starts falling off quite a bit from there. So there's a couple things in common, but very, very specialized after that. Characterization method, IR and UV vis, kind of somewhat traditional, especially the UV vis for inorganic chemists. But we also do a fair amount of NMR, magnetic susceptibility. I'm not going to lie, I was shocked melting point was this high on the list. But whatever. And then some other sorts of techniques. Little disappointed voltammetry is quite down that low, but that's what it is. So a pretty broad range of characterization methods, but I would say kind of the standard classic ones very well represented. Professional skills, even though they're not considered important, seems like everyone makes students write up lab reports and think about laboratory safety. That's good. A lot of inorganic labs work in teams. Literature searching keeps up, record keeping, laboratory notebooks. And again, from there, we start fading down a bit. I was a little surprised computational techniques was quite that low. Still fairly high, about half people, but I would have thought it would have been a little bit higher. General themes, coordination chemistry, shocking that's that high. Most inorganic lab texts are full of coordination compounds and coordination chemistry type things because that's usually what makes the fun colors. And that's the exciting thing about inorganic chemistry is we get the fun colors. From there, we go to organometallics and we start dropping off very rapidly from there. Again, a lot of this is probably influenced by the person teaching it and what their area of expertise is. So with that, I have to thank the Leadership Council of IONiC. You know, they're great friends, and I think we've done some good things together. Team SLiTHER, you know, I'm amazed and shocked that we're up to 28 of these already, with one more to go this semester, and it's just fun working with them. And sometime in January, we're going to come up with another semester worth of SLiTHERs, which will be just as exciting. I actually had to miss the one that we had last week, which was on SD hybridization for transition metals. And that's on my to-do list of things to watch because I'm really interested in that. All of the different presenters and participants in our SLiTHERs, they've made it. You know, we just put the schedules together. Everything else is on them. So thanks to them. People that responded to our lab survey, obviously that's an important part of putting that paper together. NSF for our current and hopefully future funding when we get that grant submitted. Joinery is the group that maintains the Viper website. And, you know, if you ever decide you want to start a website related to something, the best advice I can give you is don't be responsible for maintaining the website. Find someone else to do it. And last of all, you folks for hanging out with me for a little bit. Hear our story. I'll happily take any questions or chat about anything you'd like to go from here.
Questions for Chip?
Can he figure out how to unshare? There we go. Yes, he can.
So I'm curious, what are the main modes of advertisement that you're using to get this out there?
So we've been trying everything. Usually about a week and a half advance. We'll put it in the announcements channel on our Discord.
Okay.
We'll tweet it out as Flo, our official mascot. Many of us will retweet Flo's tweet and make sure it gets into appropriate groups. Flo will then also post it in Facebook, and someone's usually posting it into the Teaching Chemistry Online group or whatever it is on Facebook. And Trying to think. Those are our major sources of releasing information.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, and you can also subscribe to the Viper channel and you'll get some alerts there. I know that's one way.
Yep. Oh yeah, I guess we posted on our website too. What a silly thing to do.
I had a question on the division of labor.
Yep.
That you have a leadership council. I started to ascertain some of the division of labor amongst the leadership council, but I was curious if you could go through it really quickly because there's so many arms of this now that I'm just curious how it's managed.
Chaos. So we you're going to see this in the department if you haven't yet. Sorry, letting people behind the curtain of our department a little bit. You'll hear me refer to things like team orgo and team assessment and team biochem and team analytical, right? That comes out of our leadership model. We have teams. So we have Team SLiThEr. And there's usually at least one, if not two or three members of the leadership council on every team, but we also try and pull in other folks so that someone from those teams can report to the main leadership council when we have our leadership council meeting and act as a, bridge between the main leadership and each individual sub team. Mostly the division of the leadership council is by interest. So SLiTHERs are something I'm very interested in. I'm also, I guess I would say the leadership council member on what we consider Team ACS. So I do, I fill out the paperwork to get our symposia in, and kind of by my initial, I guess I told them this is what I'm doing. I always try and find a pre-tenure person local to where the session, the meeting is going to be my co-organizer for the meeting. And then so we take on that work. Also part of team admin, which means, just general site maintenance, what little bit we have to do, like approving users to faculty status. That means I really don't have my hands in our team research. So the team's working with the Viper Fellows. I'm not at all involved in that. I hear what's going on and offer suggestions, but my hands are out of it. So we've got people in all kinds of different pots, all with a common goal, but not necessarily fully wrapped up in everything. Probably the one person who is the person who's the official PI on our grant, probably has the most connection to all the different areas. And even then, she's pretty much in some areas says, I know what you're doing. I trust you. Do your thing.
I can't really let that pun of wrapped up in everything when we're talking about Viper go. I guess I just have to take a moment for that one.
We do use the in-coil term an awful lot.
I have two follow-up questions to that. The first is then are the leadership council positions elected? And then if you were to, you've described yourself in terms of your involvement, but if you were to think about the individuals involved, on average, how many different teams is each member involved in? Is it common that they're in 2 teams, 1 team, 4 teams?
So the election part is no. It started with 4, and as it grew, we grew to where we're at now. We've actually had a few people over the years just kind of fade out or choose to go out, or in some cases retire. And we've generally replaced them, sort of by, we want people who are involved. So if someone is, been to a workshop and posted stuff on the site and actively involved in discussing things, it's the classic thing I will tell students. Oh, you want to get involved in research? Well, be a squeaky wheel. People will notice you. So people that are squeaky wheels will be the ones most likely to get invited. because we want someone who wants to be invested in this. I think all of the current, all of the new, I'm finally in the middle-aged range of LC in terms of experience. All the newer folks were workshop participants at one point and just continued to be actively involved until we decided to bring them on board. How many people are involved, or how many different teams people are involved in is variable and can change year to year. We've traditionally had people that when they're on sabbatical dip their toes in more. Some people, when they're really slammed, will back out of something. And that's why it works. There's flexibility. So I would say, 3 to 4 teams, but some of the teams are heavier lifts. So someone might only be on one team there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Chip. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.